together through the years, together in the future. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Every parent wants their child to grow, to explore, and to dream big. At MPB, we're proud to support families and teachers across Mississippi with trusted educational programming and resources that inspire learning and spark imagination. From PBS Kids favorites to digital tools and early learning support, MPB is here for young minds, engaged classrooms, and families who believe in the power of learning at every age. Empowering families, inspiring learners. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Sit down right here on MPB Think Radio. I'm your host, Russ Latino. We've got a all-star panel in today to talk about an issue that's a little boozy after we get done with Mardi Gras and all the fun that was Mardi Gras. I want to take a point of personal privilege before I introduce my guest, though. Prohibition ended in the United States in 1933. Nobody bothered telling the state of Mississippi. We are one of 17 states that still have alcohol beverage control, which means effectively for the state of Mississippi that the state, the government, has a monopoly on the distribution of all liquor that flows through the state. It all has to flow through a warehouse in Gluckstadt, Mississippi. There's been a lot of debate and controversy on that over the years. It's not just ABC laws, though. We also have some very strict laws that affect consumers across the state, that prevent consumers from being able to access the products that they would like to be able to access, whether you're talking about direct shipment, whether you're talking about Sunday sales. Lots of restrictions in place that have kept us as if we were, operating 100 years ago during Prohibition. Right now, there is chaos unfolding with the current system. The legislature a couple of years ago made the decision to build a larger warehouse for ABC. That warehouse presumably will allow ABC to service more customers, service them more efficiently. In the interim, though, there is chaos and controversy unfolding about how they're servicing the current customer base, because since January, ABC has experienced a drastic slowdown in the ability to get alcohol to liquor stores, to restaurants, to casinos, to the resorts that serve alcohol to their customers. The end result of that is that you've got a lot of businesses that are perilously close to going out of business, that are really being hurt by this. I just read a story about a liquor store in Clinton, Mississippi, Aero Spirits, that was getting 300 cases a month. Prior to the slowdown, they are now only getting 30 cases a month. Anybody that knows this business knows that margins are very thin. Anybody that knows this business knows that if you walk into a liquor store and they don't have what you want, you walk out. And the end result of that long term, if it goes on for any length of time, is that there will be businesses that close. There certainly is already slowdown in those businesses. The state of Mississippi has seen its taxes cut in half off of the sales of alcohol so far this year compared to the same time last year. That means that there's half as much alcohol being sold, which means that there are going to be fewer jobs, fewer people buying steak dinners and drinking nice whiskey and nice wine, and that's a real problem. To help us solve the problem, or at least talk about it, we've got some great guests in, and each one of these people, in my mind, has sort of been at the forefront at trying to modernize alcohol laws in Mississippi, not just for businesses, but ultimately for consumers. I joke sometimes about the I don't need another daddy caucus. I think you guys are members of that caucus. So we've got State Representative Brent Powell in, State Senator Germaine in, Serena Flowers, who runs Uncork Mississippi. She's a consumer advocate. I've known Serena for a long time. And RNC committee man Arnie Hederman coming in just under the wire. You weren't originally scheduled to be here, but glad to have you here. Guys, I'll start with Representative Powell and Senator England. How bad is this problem right now with ABC, and what is the legislature prepared to do to fix it?
It's pretty bad. We took a tour of the current warehouse and the new warehouse last week, and you cannot move around in the ABC warehouse. They've got more product coming in, but they can't get it out the door. So you got pallets laying around everywhere with just nowhere to go. So until we can get that fixed, it's going to be a problem for a little while. The director yesterday, was it yesterday? Well, we had he said we're back to 250,000 cases a month, which is kind of the standard that we're normally used to, but we're 300,000 cases behind. And he's hoping within a few weeks we're going to start catching up, but it could be a couple months before they're completely caught up. And like you said, this is really, really starting to hurt some restaurants. The casinos are complaining, and of course, the package stores are really hurting.
And right now, the way that it's set up is that if you own a liquor store, you can't just pull up to the warehouse and pick up your own product, right?
That's correct. They don't have enough bays to do that. They've got the delivery service vehicles there backed up into the bays, so they don't have access to a will call situation.
So they're completely reliant then on the state delivering the product that they've already purchased.
Correct.
And I saw another liquor store out in Flora, Mississippi, talk about the fact that they had 24 trucks essentially on order to bring product to them. And over the last month, they'd received 7 of those 24. There's also some real controversy, I think, or some confusion, I think, over like, how do we know what's been delivered and what's not been delivered? Are you hearing that?
Yes, I'm absolutely hearing that, Russ. I had an email just this morning where a liquor store was charged for 2 cases of wine. Only one was delivered, and of course, so the whole system is kind of, messed up right now. We've got kind of a perfect storm happening right now, and it's hurting businesses. It's hurting people that. Your restaurants, your liquor stores, if they don't know what's coming, if they don't know when it's coming, they've got customers, and they've got loyal customers just like your barbershop might have, that come in and they're loyal to that business until they can't be anymore because they don't have the stuff there. And that's what we're running into. This is really starting to hurt people. And we really need to do something. I'm glad that Representative Hank Zuber, who is a fellow coastal delegate in the House, he had a hearing yesterday on that, and look, we're gonna work on it. We've got to do something about it because the emails, the phone calls are coming in from people all across the state.
Well, and Chris Graham yesterday, and I don't have anything against Director Graham, but yesterday I think said that it would take until May to clear this backlog based on the current system. Mm-hmm. Some of these businesses won't exist in May.
That's right. Well, like I said, it's very small margins anyways. And the products that people are coming in, those are the ones we're missing, right? And then you've got this one location in Gluckstadt that's having to service the entire state. You've got the issues where employee shortages. The last time I saw anything like this, that kind of this perfect storm of something going this bad, was when we had COVID and people were out of work, and the Mississippi Department of Employment Security was changing their phone system, right? And so they were getting a ton more calls than usual, but we're essentially upgrading and offline for a while, and we're in that situation right now with this, and it's not working for the people that need to get that product to keep going.
So what is we can have a philosophical debate or conversation around should the state be in the liquor business. Russ's take is that it shouldn't be, but you guys made a decision, or the legislature made a decision a couple years ago that we were going to stay in the liquor business. There was a privatization bill that came out of the House. The Senate ultimately went another direction. There ended up being a compromise around a new warehouse. That happened, so we could have that debate as to whether or not that should have happened. Set that aside, we're not going to suddenly stop building that warehouse. We're not going to suddenly privatize right now, I don't think, although this could be a proof point as to maybe why we should let some private vendor operate the damn system. But set all that aside, what is the actual immediate solution that is being considered to get the stuff flowing again to folks?
Yeah, Brett, I'll just say real quick, whether we allow these restaurants and these casinos to start bringing it in on their own if they have to. Look, we've got to have those working. The people that live in my district that work at the casinos, they may work, table games, or they may be a waitress or a waiter at a restaurant. This is hurting a lot of people down there with that because if you don't have the alcohol to serve with the steaks or to serve at your table games and all of that on those casinos, or we just got recognized in Mississippi for finally getting some Michelin star recognition here in Mississippi. Those restaurants also rely on the signature cocktails and the different things that goes along with their food, and if we can't provide that to them, we've got to give them another outlet. And I think that's one thing the legislature is trying to look at here now quickly to see what we have available in the bills we have now, and maybe what else we can do.
Yeah, we're kind of kicking around some stuff, whether it's direct, let them do direct ship from the manufacturers or distributors themselves, kind of get out of the ABC situation. Try to figure out a wheel call system for some of the local guys around here. Maybe set up a satellite area where their pallets are to where they can come get it. Let the DED trucks go down south and north. Free up some space that way. So all of this is coming to a head, and even this morning, a lot of us were kicking around just talking. Something's got to be done. It's just finding out the right solution. Somebody can come up with a solution.
Yeah, because you've got a state that takes at least 7 hours to traverse. Like if you're talking about going from the coast to northeast Mississippi, that's at least a 7-hour ride. You've got a centrally located distribution hub, but it is one distribution hub, right? Versus having distribution hubs across a state that you might see in a private sector distribution scheme. It strikes me that the will call might work for people that are close, but for somebody down on the coast at a casino, having to drive up to pick up your own stuff is not going to be the solution, right?
That's right. Yeah, that puts an extra burden on those folks that they shouldn't have to take on. They're not a delivery company or a pickup company. They serve these products.
Well, I want to talk about some of the other bills that are in this space when we get back from break, but I at least wanted to cover what I think is a serious issue that's got to be addressed at some level, because you can have the conversation about the importance of alcohol freedom, which is a very, very important conversation, but you got to make sure those people that are currently in the business are also not getting taken advantage of. And so I think figuring out direct shipment, will call, whatever that look like, makes a ton of sense. We will be back from break. I'm going to shift to Serena and Arnie, talk a little bit about their work in the consumer space on alcohol, talk a little bit about the bills that you guys are currently debating. Maybe you weren't already anticipating this problem, but it's here. So we'll sandwich all that stuff together. You're listening to The Sit Down. We'll be right back.
When the weather turns severe, when breaking news affects your family, when Mississippi needs answers, MPB is there. We provide real-time emergency alerts, trusted news coverage, and live broadcasts of emergency updates. Available on TV, radio, and online. MPB is on the air and by your side every day of the year. Because when it matters most, Mississippi turns to MPB, Mississippi's trusted source. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Everlasting, the Legacy Podcast, is a companion podcast to Mississippi Public Broadcasting's documentary Everlasting, Life and Legacy of Medgar Evers. Join me, Rita Brent, as we dive deeper into the story with exclusive interviews and conversations about the enduring legacy of Medgar Evers. Everlasting, the Legacy Podcast, available on the MPB app or wherever you get your podcasts. MPB, your stories, our mission.
You're listening to The Sit Down right here on MPB Think Radio. I'm your host, Russ Latino, joined by an all-star panel today talking about booze. We're talking about it hopefully in a serious way. There are a lot of issues that stir people up around freedom, but one that is easy for people to understand is actually alcohol freedom. On social media, you might post about tax policy or regulations or whatever it is, and there are crickets. But you start talking about whether or not an adult should be able to ship a bottle of wine to his door, and the floodgates open. Like, people intuitively understand that adults should be treated like adults. And I think there's been a long conversation in Mississippi now that has been somewhat protectionist, like preventing adults from acting like adults in the state. I want to get to some of those bills, but real quick, I want to wrap up the conversation that we were just having. My appreciation is the reason for this backlog is a change in the software system that ABC is using, where maybe they didn't anticipate the glitches that are occurring right now. and they ripped out the conveyor belt system that was being used to get the liquor from point A to point B to the bays and on the trucks. And the end result of that is that they went from like 20,000 cases being moved a day to like 4,000 cases being moved a day. Is that?
That's what they were telling us last week when we toured it. That I toured the facility 2 or 3 years ago, and the conveyor belt system was in there. And what it does is it pulls the cases off, and the individual grabs what's on his order, sets it on the pallet, and then they pick it up and go. Well, now since they've removed that, they're having to physically go to where the alcohol stored, wherever in the warehouse, physically get it on a dolly and then get it over. So it slowed the whole system down. Now, the picking machine was old and dilapidated. They're having to machine parts for it. They don't even make parts for it anymore. So I get why it was on its last leg, but to change a software system at the same time you're doing this and not run a beta test on the software just makes no sense to me. And I think that's ultimately what happened.
Just strikes me that Walmart and Amazon know how to move any product in the world around and move it quickly. I'll buy something on Amazon. It's to my door by 4 a.m. the next day. Maybe we should let people who know how to do this stuff do it. Let's shift a little bit, though, and let's talk. Serena, you have been forefront is maybe, I think that's the right word. You've been at the forefront of the conversation around alcohol freedom in Mississippi for a number of years. Uncork Mississippi did a lot of work last year on direct shipment of wine. How is that legislation panning out so far? What are you seeing?
So in the bill that was passed last year, there was a small piece of it that has continued to be an obstacle for people getting wine in the state, and that was the note that was put in there that only wine could be shipped that was not carried by ABC. Well, now we see how dysfunctional ABC is. And so removing that barrier, I think, is a number one priority for direct shipment of wine. But another piece of it is moving to the wine and grocery space, just updating the modernization of the law. We're not really talking about expanding access because we already have access in Mississippi through ABC. But modernizing the laws in Mississippi are really more the focus that Uncork the SIP has kind of turned to since we did get the significant bill of the direct-to-consumer shipping of wine last year. And these two gentlemen to my left were very, very important in that process.
So I would imagine then there's legislation this year that would fix the problem that was in the direct wine shipping bill last year?
There's not currently a standalone bill for that, but as you well know, things can be resurrected until sine die, and so there may be some mechanisms out there where that could be addressed. There is the direct-to-consumer spirits shipping bill that has passed the House and is now sitting in the Senate. So there are code sections open where that could be addressed. The current piece of legislation for direct-to-consumer shipping of spirits still has that caveat in it as well, though.
Okay. So the spirits bill that has already passed out of the House also is designed in a way that you could only have it shipped to your house if it was something that ABC does not carry.
That is correct.
Okay. Arnie, you are coming at this from a different angle, maybe. I mean, you serve on the RNC as one of 3 committeemen in the state. I shouldn't say one of 3 committeemen because there is a committee woman in Leslie Davis. Why is this issue important to you from a Republican perspective or a conservative perspective?
Well, as you know, I've always, all my life, or since the early 90s, I've been involved in Republican Party politics. I've seen us grow from where we had basically what they call the phone booth, maybe 11 members in the legislature when I started getting involved. And we've always said, less government, smaller government, it gets in the way of businesses. And with this alcohol industry, there are so many different regulations. There are so many little small details that the average consumer won't know about that's in statute or it's at DOR ABC, and it limits their access to it. And as you said, I mean, we do live in America. It's freedom. I mean, how come I cannot order wine to be shipped to my house? I mean, I should be able to do that. I think a package store owner should be able to have the same access to it. If they want to order a different set of wine, it should be able to come down. They should be able to order it and ship it directly to themselves. I mean, other operators may not want to do that, but it's just limiting access. It's just control, and it's just too much control. And that is what. And I can also argue on the brain drain. We always talk, and this is a very small part. It's not going to fix the brain drain of people leaving Mississippi. But when you can go to Tennessee and Alabama and Louisiana and you have all these freedoms with alcohol, you can have stuff shipped at your house, and no one's telling you can't have it. I can go to a liquor store, they're not state controlled, they're not, you have access to everything. Like with this problem these package store owners are having, there's no telling how many people are going to start driving on the weekend to Louisiana and go to one of their liquor stores and just load up. And our guys are going to suffer for it. So.
Yeah, it's always struck me as funny. There's certainly a bootleggers and Baptist thing that happens in Mississippi, right? 100%. And if you think about that sort of toxic combination back in the Prohibition days, I referenced Prohibition at the beginning of the show. It was like the people who were bootleggers absolutely didn't want alcohol to be legal and accessible because they were making a ton of money with their sort of niche market that they had complete control over. And on the flip side, there were people who, for moral reasons, were concerned about the impact of alcohol. You still see some of that same coalition today. I remember when the conversation around high-gravity beer was happening in Mississippi. And you absolutely had like Budweiser teaming up with like religious groups that were against the sale of alcohol. Strange bedfellows in politics, right? To see those groups mashed together. And they obviously had very different motivation, but they had the same goal, which was to prevent people from having the ability to make those decisions. The crazy thing is, if you look at a state, I've been to Vermont. You guys ever been to Vermont? It's a great state.
Not.
It's a great state. If you're 80, you can go there and you can look at the leaves change. It's phenomenal. They have the best beer scene of any state I've ever visited. Like, you go into a bar and there are at least 80 beers on tap. Most of it's brewed locally. Great variety. And it kind of speaks to your point, Arnie, is that is a part of the culture there, right?
That's right.
But if you were to compare Vermont's alcohol abuse rates, their DUI rates, all of those things to Mississippi, you would see that Mississippi, as restrictive as it is, still has a worse problem with those things than states that have allowed there to be freedom and built culture around the idea that you can responsibly consume alcohol and there can be this great variety and this great culture created. And so, like, you see that in Jackson to some degree, or Vicksburg with Key City Brewery, Fertile Ground in Jackson. You know, there's great breweries in Hattiesburg on the Gulf Coast, that they've built their own little culture, and it's something that young people actually want to be a part of.
That's right. Yeah, look, Fly Llama down in Biloxi. I mean, they've got a food truck that sits out front right there, and they do like a First Saturdays event. It really does draw. And just to hit on what Arnie said about the brain drain and all the things we're doing. Look, our governor's doing a good job, and the MDA team and everybody. We're all focused on economic development and bringing new businesses in. But these little small things become big things when people get here and realize, what do you mean I'm in one of the only 3 states that you can't have wine shipped? What do you mean I've got to now cancel my wine of the month club that I had, when I visited California? I've got to do that. That's not freedom, and it's also, those things add up, and we want to get out of that place. I think we want to open up that market and allow people to participate in that, and allow these places like Fertile Ground, which has really turned around that neighborhood in Fondren, or helped turn it around, and Fly Llama and Biloxi, these other places, because they really do bring a cultural scene and an art scene and a younger crowd, and the kind of thing that other businesses want to anchor to because they see the crowd there, right?
And the other thing I want to jump in on, is that economic development, you can only have, like, we have a Costco here, but as you know, you go outside, the liquor store is on the outside of the business, or a Whole Foods or whatever. We limit those permits, so Costco's don't come in because that's part of their business model, so they've got one here. They'll probably do more, but we need to open that up. With the Trader Joe's probably would start coming here too. But that's economic development. These are huge places that we would love to have. I think Buc-ee's is on the coast, but
it is.
I don't think they sell alcohol,
which is excellent, but I'm not sure that they're the highbrow type location that you're referring to.
They might have their own wine with a Buc-ee's.
Phenomenal beef jerky, though. Excellent beef jerky. I know Jeremy's a beef jerky connoisseur.
Big beef jerky guy, right?
But you know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous that I go to Whole Foods and then I have to come out of Whole Foods to go into their store to buy a bottle of wine.
Yeah, you look at a city like Nashville. So I went to high school just south of Nashville. It was still a country music sort of town, but they figured out how to make Nashville into a resort area. And country music's still a part of it, but it is not, by far, not the biggest part of it anymore. They figured out how to make Nashville cool for young people. Austin's another great example of this, right? They figured out how to make Austin truly cool for young people. And it's somewhere that people want to live, right? And then you do see it creates that cluster effect. You're talking about fertile ground. I mean, look at all the restaurants that have now opened up in proximity of fertile ground, in part because somebody was willing to plant a flag there. It just strikes me that it's smart to think big picture about all these things. And some of that is being willing to step back from sort of the protectionism that's been in place for a long time here.
Yeah, take a look at Starkville. When I was in college, you could buy hot beer. That was it. You had to go out of county. And as they have progressed in their liquor laws, will say, look at what Starkville is now. I mean, look at the big picture, similar to fertile ground. I mean, it may not be the panacea of everything, but it is part of it. And until you start removing those restrictions to where you can grow, you're not gonna.
And let's also just acknowledge how dumb it was, like in Oxford, as an example. And I know you're not really an Oxford guy, but we went to law school in Oxford, Jeremy. Yeah, I know. But that you would have, if you wanted to get cold beer, you'd have to drive to the county line to get cold beer. It wasn't that people weren't drinking. The law was literally encouraging people to drink and drive.
Right. Or bite at the barn on a cold weekend, right?
And get them to roll it in the ice for you.
That's right.
We got to take a brief break. We'll come back. I want to talk about Sunday sales. I want to talk about wine in grocery stores and some of the, misnomers about those things. But we'll take a brief break and come back and do that. You're listening to The Sit Down. We'll be right back.
Hatred destroys the one who hates. The others that you hated, they're going about their business. Care less.
So the legacy of Medgar Evers is an understanding of our own humanity and of our own responsibility of seeing that in other people.
He is written out of history. He's just not included as Malcolm and Martin. To me, it's the 3 M's, and Medgar is right up there at the lead.
Everlasting, Life and Legacy of Medgar Evers. Watch now on MPB Passport. Visit mpbonline.org for more.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby Rush. As a blues man, I love Mississippi Public Broadcasting. If you support Mississippi music and their local programming, donate now, right now, and become a member today, not tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Doesn't matter how big or small, but we prefer big. Thank you very much.
At the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience in Meridian, we believe in the power of the arts, storytelling, and education, just like Mississippi Public Broadcasting. MPB connects communities across the state with quality programs that inform, inspire, and engage. Their audience is loyal and appreciative of businesses that support public broadcasting, which makes underwriting on MPB a smart investment. Join us in supporting MPB. Learn more at mpbfoundation.org.
Russ Latino talking today with a great group of folks. Serena, before we went to break, I was mentioning that I wanted to talk with you about the possibility of wine sales in grocery stores. Give me a sense of why you think that's a really important issue.
Well, for number one, it's about convenience to a consumer. And I would like to point out, too, that there are approximately 43 states that allow the sale of wine in grocery stores, and all of the neighboring states to Mississippi allow this. So people, as you were talking earlier about the brain drain and trying to recruit people, it's a quality of life thing here. for people. And when they move here from out of state, they're a little bit shocked at how, quote, left behind we are in our alcohol laws. And so modernization and consumer convenience are the number one things there. On top of that, in these 43 states, liquor stores are on every other corner in those states as well. It doesn't put the liquor store out of business, because what you will find is that a consumer will maybe not be very knowledgeable about wine, and they're comfortable in a grocery store exploring different things at a lower price point. And then as their palate develops and they learn more about wine, then they move to things that are more boutique-y that their liquor store can special order for them or that they carry because the price point is higher. You're not going to see those in a Trader Joe's, which we don't have in Mississippi because we don't allow for the wine sales in grocery stores.
And that is explicitly true for Trader Joe's and also some other stores that have looked at Mississippi and basically said, until you guys allow us to sell wine in our stores, you're not a place we'd locate, right?
That is correct. I've heard that from a number of stores, like Publix as well. And then a lot of people are familiar with Total Wines. They've said that they're not coming to Mississippi until we relax some of our, let me rephrase that, until we modernize some of our alcohol laws. So there's some real economic development opportunities that we're leaving on the table.
And anybody that's ever been to states that have Trader Joe's, I mean, it is like those stores themselves. I mean, we joked about Buc-ee's, but at some level, those stores themselves are their own economic drivers and hubs. People sort of develop a loyalty to those places that's pretty unique.
That's right. Yeah, and we've got, our old laws are just, it's like a dam, just holding back these places from coming in. And we've really got, I like the word modernize to get us there.
Yeah, and I think, Serena, you make an excellent point, too, in that if you look at it and go, okay, is this going to hurt existing infrastructure? Will this hurt the existing wine stores or liquor stores that are already struggling because of this deal with ABC? The examples that we've got across the country is like these stores that sell wine, grocery stores that sell wine, and liquor stores that sell wine coexist.
That is true.
And the example in Alabama, as I understood it, is because they went to allowing wine sale in grocery stores. And there were these concerns about, okay, what is this going to do to our existing industry? And what they found is that they just increased the market.
Yes.
There were more wine drinkers, kind of to your point. Somebody got used to it and said, okay, well, I'm tired of the grocery store swill. Let me see what else is out there.
See what's out there. And again, it's a introduction where, I mean, you think about I'm a mom. I can sit here and say the mom on the way home after work, picking up the kids, you're going to pick up a steak or something to make spaghetti when you get home. You don't have time to make 2 stops. And in some places, liquor stores might not be in the most safe areas of town. Well, you're introducing a consumer another option, and then that will drive maybe even higher performing liquor stores to that area because they see there's a market now. There's more consumers out there interested in the product.
The other thing, and I can't remember if this was Representative Powell or maybe it was you, Serena, that I thought was an interesting point was that like this should not be a zero-sum game, right? Where you're just like saying, okay, now grocery stores can sell wine, but liquor stores are stuck doing what they used to do. I mean, as you guys think about this from a legislative perspective, is there also some imperative or desire to see liquor stores be able to sell food items and do more with their businesses?
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I see no problem with that at all. Now, I mean, you'd have to probably maintain a percentage of what they're selling, just like we do with some of your resort areas in the restaurants there. But yes, I mean, wine, cheese, lottery tickets. I personally don't care. I think they should. It's setups. You can't even get, you can't get a Sprite or a Coke or setup or anything. So yeah, I'm all for that. But what we've got to do is get the package retailers to come to the table with us to where we can negotiate this stuff out. The last thing any of us want to do is put any small business out of work or out of business. So I mean, let's find a common ground that the consumer can appreciate what's going on and they can still have an economic market.
There's a wine shop in New Orleans called Martin's, not to be confused with the Martin's that's in Jackson. That just is phenomenal in terms of like small plates and wine and hors d'oeuvres and all of that kind of thing. And it is a really cool experience.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to just add on to what Brent said. Also, something we could do is allow more than one license to these stores, which I think is going to be something we really need to do if we start allowing it in these other stores. You're not going to allow just one grocery store to have that one license in that area. But we have some of our best entrepreneurs in this state are package store owners, and they do a great job marketing. They do a great job putting their product out and showing their product and having people in. They'll do bottle etchings and all those kind of things. And those folks are still limited to just one license in the state of Mississippi, and they shouldn't. We should let them grow their business and grow the empire if they want to of what they do, and allow them that chance to get out there and really compete. So I think that's another bill that you guys have that would allow that to happen that I think is a good idea.
Let me stop you right there.
Yes.
They don't have it. It's now in the Senate's possession.
Well, that's right. It is over. It's on our end of the hall. Ball's in our court, right?
Yes.
That's right.
As it is every year.
That's right. Well, look, I will say Representative Brent Powell and Representative Hank Zuber and Representative Shonda Yates, you guys have all they've done a great job getting this to our end of the hall every year, and then we get it and want to do our things with it. And there's several others that I work with, Senator Scott Delano being one. But we see this need, and again, I'm going to use the word because I like it so much, modernize our liquor laws.
What are the biggest political impediments? Because it does seem, and I'm not trying to pick on you,
right,
the one representative of the Senate today, but it does seem like the House of Representatives steadily passes what I will call alcohol freedom bills, or let me be my own adult bills. And I'm not saying they all die, but a lot of them die when they get to you guys. What are the biggest sort of psychological impediments or political reasons that those bills don't go as far in your chamber?
So I think part of it is the dynamic that maybe our districts are bigger and our constituency is more diverse. You have some people that are still going to have that, look, my Baptists aren't going to want me to vote for this. And I'm not going to support this. Or people are going to think I'm a lush, for supporting alcohol laws. Or maybe they just, maybe they have a lot of package store owners in their individual districts, and that's who they'd listen to, and that's who they're talking to. I don't know what it is. It's a number of reasons, but I think those can be overcome. We showed last year that it can be overcome when we passed this bill to allow direct shipment of some wines in the state of Mississippi. So we can work on it, and I think we've got a good team over there now. And as long as Representative Powell and their teams keep sending us good bills, I think we'll keep looking at them. But it just takes time sometimes to get these things rolling. This ABC situation, I think, has compounded it in some sense, but also there's going to be that question of, look, if we've got this issue going on now and we add wine in grocery stores, what's that situation look like then? So some of these could maybe come to the top and be something we focus on this year to maybe help out. Direct shipment of spirits being one, the multiple licenses being another one, just kind of get some of those restrictions out of the way. Maybe even, I thought about a bill this year to allow for Sunday sales, even if we restricted that to a wholesale situation, allowing it to restaurants to be able to get those. That's very important down the coast. You have a football Sunday coming up and you don't have mimosas and Bloody Mary mix and the things for that, you're in trouble for that day. So, even just taking small steps is a good step at this point. So I don't know what we'll see come out. I don't know what will happen with it. I can't speak for everybody, but it is a freedom issue. It's an economic freedom, consumer freedom issue, is the way I view it.
So let's talk about Sunday sales. What's the status there? What's the current law? What are we trying to change?
So right now, Sunday sales are prohibited from a retailer's perspective. But here's the interesting point. You can go to a restaurant on a Sunday afternoon and then order a bottle of wine, open it at the restaurant, cork it, and take it home and drink it. But you can't walk into a package store and buy one that afternoon, or you can't walk into a grocery store and buy one that afternoon. So with the ABC backlog, obviously that's not something people typically do. If you're out of wine on Sunday and you're having something special for dinner, you don't think, oh, I'm going to run down to Kate or Bravo or wherever and buy a bottle of wine and take it back home. But as a consumer, you should have the option to go purchase it that day. It's a legal product. And
yeah, no, it just, and maybe Arnie, I'd get you to respond to this thought process. It strikes me that there's an awful lot of freedom for me, but not for thee, right? And so, like, at some level, everybody says, well, heck, I wish ABC wasn't doing this to my package store right now or to my restaurant or the casino right now. And that's a completely valid argument. Like, What's happening right now shouldn't be happening to those folks. But then some of those same folks would stop short and say, yeah, I want that freedom to be able to direct ship to my business, but I don't want Arnie to have the freedom to direct ship to his business. Like, how do we get past that mentality that says freedom for me but not thee?
I mean, and again, it just comes down to passing the laws. I mean, and people will find out this isn't, the sky's not going to fall at all. It's all going to, it actually will improve, like Serena has been saying, it will improve economic. People will get more involved with just going to the grocery store and getting the wine, and then having something to go into the liquor store, and then having something special ordered for themselves, or order and have it shipped to their house. I mean, these are all things that shouldn't be happening right now that we deal with. I mean, it's laughable that you can go to a restaurant and buy a bottle of wine, but you can't go to the liquor store. And again, it's not forcing people to open their stores on Sundays. It's optional. But what you're saying is, some guy may not want his liquor store open, but he may feel like he's going to be forced to open it if his neighbor down the street is opening their liquor store on Sunday. And so you're just running into that. You've got people that want, owners that want Sunday sales. You got owners that want more permits. You got some that are just happy the way things are. I mean, and so, but until you got to get past this protective and move on. I mean, it's like AI. We can't stop it. It's going to move on. It's going to affect our lives, but it's not. The world's not going to fall. We're not going to have robots take us over.
I hope not.
I hope not too.
and I just say this, and we got to take one more break, and we'll come back for our last segment. But I think at some level, there might be people listening and going like, "Who are these lushes on the radio? They're like pushing alcohol." And I just want to emphasize that to me, this is not an alcohol issue. Like, this is a microcosm of a bigger issue in the state of Mississippi, which is we have this tendency of developing protectionist schemes that literally prevent grown adults from making their own decisions. And the consequence of depriving grown adults of the ability to make their own decisions is that we cease to be adults, right? We cease to develop the responsibility muscle over time. And that's why you see states that have more freedom around these kinds of laws actually have lower incidence of alcohol abuse, lower incidence of DUIs. It's because it's been normalized in a way not to make it taboo, to make it part of a cultural experience. And because of that, they have better outcomes. You're listening to The Sit Down. We will be back for our last segment just after this.
At the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience in Meridian, we believe in the power of the arts, storytelling, and education, just like Mississippi Public Broadcasting. MPB connects communities across the state with quality programs that inform, inspire, and engage. Their audience is loyal and appreciative of businesses that support public broadcasting, which makes underwriting on MPB a smart investment. Join us in supporting MPB. Learn more at mpbfoundation.org.
Together through the years, together in the future. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Every parent wants their child to grow, to explore, and to dream big. At MPB, we're proud to support families and teachers across Mississippi with trusted educational programming and resources that inspire learning and spark imagination. From PBS Kids favorites to digital tools and early learning support, MPB is here for young minds, engaged classrooms, and families who believe in the power of learning at every age. Empowering families, inspiring learners. MPB, your stories, our mission.
The Sit Down. I'm your host, Russ Latino. We're joined today by State Representative Brent Powell, State Senator Germaine England, Serena Flowers, who runs Uncork Mississippi, has been sort of at the cutting edge or the leading edge of the fight for alcohol freedom in Mississippi for a number of years, and Arnie Hederman, who is one of the RNC committeemen, or as I said earlier, one of two RNC committeemen plus an RNC committee woman. I don't know that I've ever had four guests in at once, so this has been fun. We were talking before the break about sort of the nature of protectionism. And like, Jeremy, you talked about the Tesla bill a couple of years ago. And I know obviously the legislature passed a bill that required essentially that Tesla build a brick and mortar in Mississippi versus allowing direct sales of automobiles at a time when every other state was doing away with those franchise requirements. So we kind of were working in opposite of what other states were doing. There are other things like that, though. Like I think about the fight that we had around Uber and Lyft. Mm-hmm. And that fight, and this speaks to what you were saying before break, Arnie, that fight was very much like taxi cab companies saying like, oh, no, it's not fair that Uber and Lyft get to do this without all the regulations that we have on us as taxi cabs, which, by the way, the taxi cab companies have promulgated, right? They had created their own sets of rules in order to prevent other people from competing against them. And when you go to those people and say, well, what if you had the exact same regulatory framework as Uber and Lyft? They're like, oh, no, we don't want that, right? So it's kind of to your point about Sunday sales, where there are literally some people who are saying like, well, if we allow Joe down the street to sell on Sunday, that means I'm going to have to sell on Sunday to be competitive. Like, we should not allow the person who wants restrictions to decide for another business what they get to do with their business, and for consumers whether or not they get to go in and shop there.
Absolutely. I mean, that drives me crazy. I mean, because that's not the way. I mean, America has been built on entrepreneurship. I mean, and if you limit people from what they want to do because one person doesn't want to do it and everybody has to play by that rule, that just doesn't work. And that slows down progress. And so that's kind of where we are with a lot of laws.
So as we look at the landscape, you've got this ABC thing going on right now. Obviously, you guys are going to have to come up with some sort of fix. It's never fun having to come up with a fix on the fly like that either, because the potential of unintended consequences is there.
Right.
But the unintended consequence of doing nothing is that some of these people are going out of business.
That's right.
You're going to have to fix that at the same time that you're also considering some of these other bills. If you had to give a prognosis on the things that we've talked about in the near term, whether it's this year or next year, do we have Sunday sales? Do we have wine in grocery stores? Are we allowing the direct shipment of liquor? You guys are in the unique position that you get votes, so I'm going to start with you and give me a sense of where you think these things are going.
I think they're going in the right direction because, like Serena's doing, they're doing an awesome job of getting the message out. I get more emails, or I have received more emails for wine and grocery stores through my legislative account than any other combined. So I think we're going in the right direction. Probably the next step, I think, is probably Sunday sales, but I really think the multiple permits is where we need to get to really open up things.
Yeah, I would agree. Look, like I said earlier, it's all about taking steps. I think the easiest step for us to take early on is the multiple permits. I think that's got to be in place before we allow the sale in grocery stores. But once we get that, look, I hear people all the time on certain issues. It's why nobody's even asked me for this. Why should I care about this? Everybody's asking for wine in grocery stores, because they go and they visit these other states and they visit the grocery stores that have them, and they just offer more. They have that I don't know, going to a Publix just has that ambiance that we don't have in a lot of our stores, because you've got the cheeses that go with the wines and the great steaks that go with the wines and vice versa. And Mississippians want that. We go out and we visit. It's easy for us to go visit now maybe than it was in the 1930s, to go see what other states have. But when we see it, we get asked, hey, why not? And then the people come back and they get on their email and they'll email me or Brent or whoever their legislator is, hey, why don't we have wine in grocery stores so we can get this happening? So I think we'll see it coming. Look, if we had a ballot measure...
And direct shipment on liquor?
Direct shipment on liquor, the same. Look, if we had a ballot measure, these things would be some of the top
80%. 80 to 85%.
That's
easily right. on all of this stuff, because most people want to be treated like adults. Serena, I'll give you final word. What's your prognosis for the rest of this session? What do you hope legislators will do as they move forward?
I hope they will keep the consumer at the forefront when they're addressing all of these issues. I do think Sunday sales is the next logical step. The bill that's out there does allow for the municipalities to have some say in that. But I'd just like to point out that I've been working on these issues for 16 damn years, and it's time to get some things done.
Thank you. I like that you pointed that out. Arnie, any last thoughts on your side?
I mean, all these guys know I'm for opening it all up. I mean, that's where I just think here's an opportunity for us to fix a few things, even if it's temporary, and then move on. I mean, as we said, everything's a baby step in the legislature, and that's fine. But let's have baby steps. Let's quit. We haven't had baby steps, and we need the baby steps to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I go back to the fact that, like, this is a microcosm of a much larger debate about whether or not we're going to truly trust the people of Mississippi with the type of freedom that I think adults deserve to have and make their own decisions and candidly make their own mistakes and learn from them. Like, at some level, the mentality in Mississippi for a very long time has been like, we just want to keep things exactly the way that they are. And if you do go to Alabama or Vermont, or you start to travel and you realize there are cool things in other places that we are quite literally prohibiting ourselves from having access to, it makes it real hard not to be like, why the heck are we this slow? Why the heck aren't we doing more faster? I know you guys are trying, so this is not me lecturing you. But I want to see more people join the I Don't Need Another Daddy caucus. We're gonna get that started. You guys have Uncorked the Mississippi. We're going to get I Don't Need Another Daddy caucus started and get some stuff done in Mississippi. You've been listening to The Sit Down. It is a production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting Think Radio, made possible by the generous contributions of listeners just like you. We'd like for you to continue supporting this show. If you like the guests that we have on every single week, the topics that we discuss, please consider making a contribution to us. You can go to mpbonline.org and do that. And I hope that you'll stay tuned for new editions of The Sit Down next week. For my guest, Arnie Hederman, Serena Flowers, State Senator Jeremy England, Representative Brent Powell. Thank you all. Thank you for listening to another episode of Sit Down. Have a great Wednesday.